Time to get smarter about the old-time hockey game. Our friend Alan May joins the program. Mayday, what's up,
What
man?
up,
How you
May?
been?
Hey, guys. How you doing? Good to be with you again.
We're doing good, man.
Good to be with you, dude.
How important was it for them to get that victory last night, Alan?
It very because it had been a very tough week. They had trouble scoring goals, and they came out early, and they scored that first pair. They got the third one, but all of a sudden, those young, super fast, incredible hockey players on Ottawa Senators reminded me of the old Caps Rock the Red, the way they were flying up and down the ice. But they hung strong. They found a way to win. They had incredible goaltending, as it seems they do every single game. So it's just a matter of getting on track. And sometimes when you're struggling to get your game back, you have to just kind of – they didn't throw the game plan out the window, but they added an extra layer of intensity. And it was a whole lot of layers, I should say, and everyone was in on it. And it was great to see Tom Wilson be the physical catalyst to bring everything along last night.
Alan, so I wasn't familiar. I guess I had heard the term before, but it had been a while. What is it? The Bobby Orr hat trick? What do they call what Willie did last night?
It's called a Gordie Howe hat trick. And the funny thing about it is that Gordie Howe only had, I think, one of them in his entire hockey career. And it's a goal and assist and a scrap. And so Wilson got his. He's had, I don't know if I know he's had two for sure, but I would like to think he's had more. I only had, at the NHL level, I think I only had one or two. And in the minor leagues, I felt like I had one every single game. And junior, it was certainly, when I played junior hockey, it was certainly almost every single game, whether it was regular season or playoffs or preseason. That was kind of the mode I was in all the time.
What was the first one you got of the three? The scrap?
I can't remember, because what I used to love to do, I had a lot of fights. When you put it all together, I had close to 400 fights between preseason, training camp, regular season, playoffs. And I left home in the 11th grade to play junior hockey, and it was a way different world back then. It was basically caveman rules, or prison rules, they like to call it. And it was like that until I got to the NHL. Then the NHL started to crack down on a lot of the things that were going on. And now, since I think it was 2005 when the NHL lost the season, they changed a lot of the rules, and they made it so it was a lot different. They were supposed to call a lot more penalties. So we don't get it as often, but when we do, we celebrate it a lot more.
Yeah, it was so Brian and I were both at the game last night. It was a really good atmosphere, I thought. And they jump out to that big 3-0 lead. Then Willie gets a fight. It was like checking all the boxes of all the stuff you wanted to happen at a Caps game. I think it's a little silly for us to get too concerned over any one game in a season where they lead the Metropolitan Division by 12 points, right? Like, they lead the Eastern Conference by 7. Still, though, this isn't their best stretch. And then to give up that lead, thank goodness they held on and won it in the shootout. But how much concern do you allow for this last week or so, where things just haven't looked right?
Yeah, I would have a lot of concern when the players were getting interviewed, whether it's, after practice or after the game, if they acted like, oh, it's okay, and, played it off like, oh, we'll turn it up when we need to. Well, that's not how it works. And you've got to be at your level best as much as possible. And it's just a stretch. Teams go just like anyone else. You guys, people in business, people that got to hump it out every day. You got your rhythms in life, and sometimes you're in a downswing, and everyone on the team is a little bit down and look like they just lack the energy. And sometimes that's what happens. They had a few weeks off, then they came back and they scored 15 goals. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the world came to an end because they only scored 4 goals over the next 3 games. So you can't be too concerned. They still lead the National Hockey League in goals, but the biggest thing is they know that they have to be in it mentally. And that part's got to, find a way to inspire them to play a great physical brand of hockey. And the way I wanted them to get out of the doldrums of the past week was I wanted them to bring the physicality to the game, up the intensity, and it had to be their physical leaders. It's Wilson, and actually, believe it or not, it's Ovechkin. Mm-hmm. And then you got Dowd and Duhaime, and then on defense, you've got Roy and Faravari are kind of the guys that play the body the most. But you need to push and shove after the whistles. You need to agitate. I saw Connor McMichael doing it last night. I saw Lars Eller and Mangiapane getting involved. And it's just good to push and shove and look. It's good to be bitter out there and not let things just take them as they come. I thought they were very polite in the last couple of games that they had at home. Last night, they were far from that. They were somewhat belligerent. The refereeing was horrible, and that added to a lot of the emotion.
Yeah.
That certainly put Ottawa back in the game because we saw things that were being called early. All of a sudden, late in the game, they weren't calling, and the Caps weren't getting the calls they should have.
The Sandin little cheap shot.
Well, the Sandin, to me, as a guy that played for a long time and been watching forever, it's just one of those incidental contacts where two guys are kind of watching the play and they skate into each other. You remember a long time ago when Dave Steckel, I believe it was, and Sidney Crosby in that Outdoor Classic game in Pittsburgh. That happened, and Sid got his bell rung pretty bad, but it was at the time when Sidney was, dealing with a lot of concussions, and it's just one of those things. Two guys, you see guys run into each other warm up on the same team. They don't get penalized or suspended, and guys in football, they run into each other. Mm-hmm. Baseball, we see the comedy of errors all the time. So to me, that's not the one. It was the blatant hooking. Even with 10, 11 seconds left in overtime, Ovechkin was tripped in front of the net. And it was so blatant. The ref was watching it. That should have been blown down as soon as the puck got up to the D-man. And then all of a sudden, it was actually shot out of the corner by the opposition, the Senators. It should have been a power play for the last 10 seconds. Win the face-off, set up a play, and let Ovechkin or Karlsson have the power bomb from in tight. And, they had a lot of reason to be upset with the refereeing, but sometimes it's good to have that to deal with the adversity. And, it gets you pissed off and it ups your ante, and maybe you can bring that aggression into the next game.
Do you think any of the OV chasing the goal thing is kind of like putting pressure on them, on the team?
Not at all. And the way they've approached this season has been about being far better than last year. Last year they had to play not a very pretty brand of hockey. It wasn't physical. It wasn't fast. And they had to stay in the middle of the ice, and they kind of checked the puck, and they were all in on the shot blocking and defending with their sticks. This season, a far better hockey team, and they went out there right from the start to prove people wrong, that it wasn't just about the goal chase. That's on Alex. That's on Alex to up his game at all times, move his legs, and when he's moving his legs, he gets better shot opportunities. He puts more into the shot. And I would have to commend Carberry and the rest of the coaching staff is that they don't tailor-make the games for Ovi to go out there. They go for everyone, Ovechkin and every other player, to go out, be successful, play solid both ways. When the power play struggles, it's on everyone to get it better. Coaching staff included, penalty kill. It's on the guys that run the penalty kill, and it's on the players to block shots, get sticks in lanes, get their clear. So they're focused on winning. I think the number one thing, we know that Alex will break that record. And they wanted another crack at the Stanley Cup. That's the best drug there is in sports, BMitch. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
What we've been able to witness with teams, you win, it adds years to your career, and it gives you the greatest memories ever. It's the greatest shot of adrenaline you could ever receive in your life to finally hear, the buzzer go at the end of a game and you win a championship. So they're all focused on that. There's just a few guys left over that were here for the Stanley Cup. And there's some guys, there's a lot of guys, every guy would say, that wants to go out there and win another Stanley Cup. And what a great city to do it in. And I've never seen a better day down at the National Mall. That Stanley Cup parade was like no other that I've ever seen. It was phenomenal. And I want to see another one of those.
Dude, me too. Talking with our friend Alan May here on the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude is the most reliable HVAC products in the DMV. You can watch Alan every night. Monumental Sports Network covers the Caps, whether it's hosting or now in the booth. Alan does a tremendous job. Alan May _16 if you want to follow him. Mayday, I went last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, the Caps unveiled a plaque over at Georgetown Harbor at like Riverside Grill and Tony and Joe's, because
the fountain,
commemorating Ovi and the boys going swimming in there and being there for this plaque, arrival, and Backstrom and Oshie being there. It reminded me of that year and that run and how incredible it was. You know this team. I asked John Walton this yesterday. You know this team, and you knew that team. You saw it up close, personally, the guys involved. Does this feel like a team with that kind of run in it?
Well, that year, I remember telling all the broadcast guys, and a bunch of us went out in Pittsburgh after Ovi's 1,000th game, and it was March 1st, I believe. And from the way they played that night in Pittsburgh, I said they finally have what it takes. And this is a team that will win the Stanley Cup. And I told the guys that I was with, they could verify it. I said, guys, I do not bet, but if I were you, I would bet the Stanley Cup, the Caps big time to win the Stanley Cup. And I've got the feeling what I like about this team, what I really like about this team is the togetherness. It's been there all season long. When I've been traveling with them, there's no cracks in the armor. The way I see them play and stick up for each other. And as they get down here, it can be exhausting being at the top of the heap. And as they go down to refine their game, they've got a very worrisome next few days because it is the trade deadline on Friday at 3 p.m. It'll end, and everyone wants to stay, and there are a lot of players on the league that want to be on this team and try to have a crack at the Stanley Cup. And when you think of it, that team. I love the defense of the team that won the Cup. I really, really like this defense here. This one might even be better, but they've got to win to prove it. The goaltending on both of these big goaltenders that are under contract for the next 3 years together, and Logan Thompson for 6. And I think arguably every night in the National Hockey League, LT is having the best season with Connor Hellebuck in Winnipeg, but LT stole the show last night. The way he played in the third period, the way he played in overtime in the shootout, he was spectacular. And then you look at the depth of the forward, and I like big teams. They're big. If not the biggest, they're one of the top 3 in the National Hockey League, and they push teams to the outside when they're all on the same page, and most nights they are. It's just a matter of getting that groove back, and I expect to see some great things in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
How important was that for them to get both of those goalies locked up?
And how new was that idea to lock 2 goalies up, not just one?
Well, I kept telling everyone, why would you break it up? And LT has had a way better season than anyone expected. And he plays with somewhat of a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove that he is the guy. But he's still a great teammate. Charlie Lindgren came here, I think he was 28, probably 29 years old when he became a regular in the National Hockey League, when he was even here being on the bench. And he started out as a backup and took over the net. He's been the consummate teammate. The players love him. And why would you get rid of a guy and offset the chemistry? You got 2 guys that want to play here, 2 guys that wanted to sign contracts. I have a feeling Charlie could have got more money. He would have gotten more money on the open market. Someone would have paid him a lot more. But he wants to be here. He's got $9 million coming his way over the next three seasons after this. So I love it. You look at a lot of teams, they've got to sign their goaltender to, if they've got an alpha, they've got to send them to 8, 9, 10 million just for one guy. And we've seen that, 11 million. And you look at Shesterkin in New York, and the Caps have both of their guys for, I think, 8.85 for the next 3 years. The salary cap always goes up, and there is no salary cap when you have an owner that wants to win it, because you find every means possible to make sure that you spend money and make money happen. There's always a trade to make, whether it's a draft pick, a prospect, a key player, to find money. And there's always, long-term injury in reserve. You use that when you see guys are going to be out for a while. When you have a great owner and great ownership, we see it around the league, they utilize that. So it's important that the Caps kept both of these guys, and they have trust. And that's the biggest thing you could have in your goaltending. When you look down in your crease and you trust that guy, no matter what level, what league, whether it's youth hockey, minor hockey, collegiate, the minor leagues, it is imperative that you have a great goaltender, and the Caps have 2 of them.
You know what? You could tell, you talked about that trust, the trust in that team, and then the trust I think Thompson must have in himself in the shootout particularly, but the whole third period, overtime, all of it. He was outrageous.
He was
Those wrist saves, the glove saves, it was unbelievable. Yeah. I was so impressed by that dude last night.
Well, he's a battler, and he, as I said, he plays with a chip on his shoulder. I love the guy. When I'm talking to him, he's a great kid. He's funny, he's energetic, but the way he plays, it's almost like he's taunting players, and he's forcing them and try to tell them where to shoot the puck. Last night, they were going for the glove, and then he knew they were going for the 5-hole, and he took it away. Yeah, and he's kind of got the gunslinger mentality, and the coaching staff has so much trust in both of these guys that they're in a great situation as they go down the stretch here. They'll topple 100 points. They'll be in the 40 plus to close to 50 or early 50s in the wins. And they probably need to get on the road to get some of that. I think they've been home too long with the break in this homestand.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're going to put them out on the road, and that's where the camaraderie builds again. And the guys, just focus on playing the game, laughing, enjoying themselves, and become a tighter-knit group.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm wrong on this, Alan, and you played there, you would know. I think going to MSG helps because there's that jolt of energy that the Garden and New York City bring. And I just think that will be like a little jolt they could use right now.
Well, the Rangers, after the last couple of games, think they're the best team in the National Hockey League. They've traded almost, I'd say, a third of their roster from what they started the season with. Their team's completely different than where it was.
They've won a couple in a row.
Yeah, their best defenseman, Adam Fox, is out with an injury. They're rotating their two goaltenders right now, and they brought in JT Miller from the Vancouver Canucks, who's got an engine, and they were talking about trading. It sounded like every single player needed to be traded. And when you look at their roster at the start of the year, I don't know what happened, but I thought for sure they'd be a top-tier team, and all of a sudden they were eating their own and trading guys and trying to find the right remedy. And it'll be big for the Capitals to go in there. It'll be a crash and bang type of game. It'll be a goaltenders duo. It's going to be about discipline, staying out of the penalty box. And players do love playing in Madison Square Garden, no matter how bad the ice is. It's a pretty cool and awesome event right from when they start doing the player introductions about 2.5, 3 minutes before the puck is dropped. They've got a great show. It's fun to go in there, and it's more fun to get a W and send everyone home unhappy.
Now, when do you think Ovi breaks the record, if he breaks it this year?
Well, the way he scores, and last night he was pumping the shots at net, and Olmark got lucky on one that hit the shoulder, then it just went out, grazed the shoulder, then hit the top of the crossbar. He had another one I thought hit the post. I'm betting on him because he's been streaky and he's moving his legs again. He really needed the Four Nations break. I hope he does it, and I want him to do it here in the month of March. And we got a couple more games here at home. As long as they continue moving their legs, they'll get more power play opportunities. He was moving his legs last night, and when he's moving his legs, throwing hits and shooting the puck with high volume, he scores goals. And he likes the big stage tomorrow night in Madison Square Garden. I expect a big one out of Ovechkin. And I want him, and I kept telling guys, they were going, we don't think he's going to break it till next year. I said, don't forget, he's capable of scoring 3 goals at any time, 4 goals at any time. And before he broke his fibula, he had 5 goals in 2 games. He probably would have ended that night in Salt Lake City the way he was going there with about 4 or 5. And that record would be broken by now, and be looking at him creeping into the 900s. So I expect Ovechkin to have a few more big games here in the next little while. And the closer he gets, the great Gretzky's going to be around. Gary Bettman's going to be around. And Ovi will be hyped, and so will his teammates, to get that record broken.
That is really cool. Alan, quickly, and I don't want to put you in a weird spot, but I wanted to say this. Obviously, everybody wants Locker to recover as fast as possible. We all love Craig. We love Locker, but you've been great. I watch all the Caps games, and you've done it before. It's not like it's a big departure for you to be in the booth with Joe B, but I just want you to know you've been great, and as a Caps fan watching the broadcast, you guys haven't missed a beat, man.
Well, thank you very much, and it's an honor that Craig trusted me to do this while in his absence. And I miss being around him because he makes me laugh, and when he's with Joe Beninati, they make me laugh even more. And last night before the game, it started about 5 o'clock, and Joe got me going, and I couldn't even talk. I couldn't watch the plays, like do any of the rehearsals, because Joe was so funny. And when the two of them are together, I love being on the road with the guys.
Yeah.
In the mornings between 10 and 2, it is complete comedy. They should have their own sitcom. I miss Locker, and I still wait for a replay sometimes and expecting to hear Locker. So the big difference in the two things that I've been doing, in the pregame post, I know I've been between the benches before, but it's a lot different. You've got to think in real time. Normally I'm analyzing things. I've got, I can process my thoughts for the intermissions and the postgame show, whatever, or even the pregame show. But all of a sudden it's live ammo, and you've got a different vantage point. You're looking at the players from a different angle, not looking at the big screen or mid-level of the arena. So it's been awesome. I love doing it, but I also miss and want Craig Laughlin to be back here. And I really, really would love for Joe B to get that call, not the national networks, to make sure Joe B's voice is on an iconic call. as he was there for the first goals that Ovi scored. So many great, important goals that this franchise has had, and it's just not right if it's not Locker and Joe B on the call. And I really hope and pray that happens.
My suggestion is if they gonna do it like they normally do, have an alt cast, and they could call it and just turn off the national people and listen to Joe B. Them.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, hopefully they do find a way, even if we did a shadow broadcast for sale on, online years later, because the national, they do pay a lot of money, TNT and ESPN, to be the broadcast partners. Yeah. But I know that the Capitals fan base wants to hear Joe B make that call, and we want to hear Locker laughing and so excited about it. And to me, that would be a dream come true for the franchise and for our network.
Mayday, thank you for the time, brother. Really appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Brother. Appreciate you, man.
Alan May does a tremendous – you can't think of Caps hockey without thinking of Alan. Mm-hmm. That's just where it is.